Toto Wolff has finally broken his silence, and George Russell won't like what he had to say after Russell blamed Mercedes' lack of straight-line speed for falling behind teenage teammate Kimi Antonelli. Wolff fired back with a blunt message: the data says otherwise. No excuses, no blaming the car. Mercedes is investing millions to build a championship-winning team, and Wolff wants one thing only: results. Has Russell's excuse just sparked a major clash inside Mercedes, and is Antonelli proving he's now the team's new benchmark? Let's find out. It happened right after the checkered flag at Silverstone, in front of Russell's home crowd. He had just crossed the line in second place, a result that, on paper, looks like a strong weekend. Second place at your home Grand Prix should be a moment of celebration. Instead, the mood over the radio was anything but happy. Russell keyed his microphone and told his engineers that Mercedes urgently needed to get on top of their straight-line speed issues. He described the weekend as deeply frustrating, and the frustration in his voice was obvious to anyone listening to the broadcast. It wasn't just a passing comment, it was a pointed message aimed squarely at the engineering side of the garage. But the response from the top of the team wasn't the sympathetic one Russell may have expected. Team principal Toto Wolff came back over the radio almost immediately, and his tone was noticeably different from his usual supportive messaging. He told Russell team principal contradicts his driver's complaint live on air. It usually means patience is wearing thin behind the scenes. This is where the story gets even more interesting. Russell hadn't just vented once over the radio, he'd been repeating the same complaint in the media as well. In post-session interviews, he told reporters he believed he was losing multiple tenths of a second to Antonelli purely due to factors outside his control, strongly implying a car-related disadvantage. But according to insider reporting from within the paddock, that narrative doesn't line up with what Mercedes engineers found when they dug into the telemetry. A source close to the team reportedly said there was simply nothing in the data to support Russell's claims: no unusual drag readings, no aerodynamic inconsistency, no mechanical disadvantage that could explain the gap to his teammate. Even more telling, team insiders reportedly went out of their way to explain to Russell directly that, in race trim, his car's performance was essentially identical to Antonelli's. In other words, this wasn't a case of the team dismissing his concerns without investigation. They apparently looked into it, checked the numbers, and came back with nothing. So if the car wasn't the problem, the obvious question becomes, what was actually causing the gap? And that question puts the spotlight right back on the driver. According to veteran F1 journalist Chris Medland, this is where the deeper story lies. Medland suggested that Russell may have convinced himself something is mechanically wrong with his car even when the numbers simply don't back that belief up. He described it as Russell having gotten into his head that his machinery is somehow working against him. Psychologically, that's a difficult place for any elite driver to be in. Formula One is a sport of fine margins, and when a driver starts pointing to external factors, things outside their control, it becomes very easy to stop focusing on the one thing that actually can be controlled: their own driving, their own decision-making, their own execution on track. To be fair to Russell, he didn't completely dodge accountability in his public comments. He openly admitted that his own performance level hasn't been where it needs to be recently, acknowledging that both controllable and uncontrollable factors have combined to hurt his results. But actions and blunt radio messages from your own team boss tend to speak louder than balanced comments in a press conference. And right now, it's clear that Mercedes' senior leadership isn't fully buying into the "it's the car" explanation, at least not based on what their own data is telling them. Let's break down the hard facts from Silverstone weekend. In qualifying, Russell was 0.4 of a second slower than Antonelli, a significant margin in on a weekend where he still only finished second because Antonelli suffered a mechanical issue, a broken wheel shield that eliminated him from point-scoring position entirely. Take that misfortune away, and the underlying story of Mercedes' season becomes even more obvious. According to multiple reports, Antonelli has arguably been the faster of the two Mercedes drivers since as early as the second race of the season in China. This isn't a one-race anomaly or a single bad qualifying session, it's becoming a recurring pattern across an entire campaign. For a rookie in his debut Formula One season, that's an extraordinary statement. And for Russell, an established Grand Prix winner, it's a difficult reality to sit with. Here's where the narrative gets even more layered. Thanks largely to Antonelli's bad luck at Silverstone, Russell actually gained 18 points on his younger teammate in the Drivers' Championship standings from that weekend alone. To put that into perspective, after the Monaco Grand Prix, Russell trailed happening largely because Antonelli has suffered reliability issues and misfortune. That is a very different story than Russell is closing the gap through raw performance. And it raises an uncomfortable question for the Mercedes camp. If Antonelli's reliability improves and the bad luck stops, any team principal wants. But underneath that surface, there's clearly a growing tension. Wolff's blunt radio response wasn't just a throwaway comment born out of race day stress. Insiders suggest it was a deliberate message. A message that excuses will not be tolerated inside this team, and that both drivers, regardless of age or experience, are expected to take full accountability for their results. For Russell, the pressure is mounting in a very real way. As the senior driver on the team, he's supposed to be the reference point, the benchmark that a rookie teammate is measured against. Instead, it's increasingly looking like a teenager is setting that benchmark for him. If this trend continues into Belgium and the races that follow, Russell may need to seriously reconsider not just his approach on track, but also how he communicates with his own team when things aren't going his way. Because right now, the data and his own bosses don't appear to be on his side. So there you have it. Toto Wolff's blunt response over the radio wasn't just a passing comment. It may have exposed a very real crack forming inside the Mercedes garage. George Russell says the car is holding him back. His own team says the data tells a completely different story. And Kimi Antonelli, despite his misfortune at Silverstone, continues to prove exactly why many inside the paddock believe he's the future of this team and maybe even its present. Belgium is coming up fast, and every eye in the paddock will be on whether Russell can respond with performance instead of explanations. Will he silence the doubters and reassert himself as Mercedes' clear number one? Or will Antonelli's rise become simply impossible to ignore? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Russell is genuinely being let down by his machinery? Or is the pressure of a rookie teammate finally starting to get to him? Drop a like, subscribe for more Formula One breakdowns, and we'll see you in the next one.